Hi everyone, I'm Christina, and with me today is Leo Benkel, who's an experienced engineer at Ziverge. Hi Leo, thank you for being with us
Hi,
today.
very happy to be here. Thanks, Christina, for having me.
Yeah, for the sake of our audience, let's start with where you currently live.
So right now I live in Luxembourg.
Awesome. So, is your background Luxembourg right now?
Yeah, exactly. That's a view of the beautiful city that we have. I love it here.
Yeah, we were talking a little earlier before we started the interview that Luxembourg has a lot of castles and it's absolutely just kind of like a fairy tale, as you can
Yeah,
see.
exactly.
So that's
And
that's
it's only like 650,000 people in the entire country. And so
oh wow.
the population density is very, very small. So we have a lot of forest and a lot of castles and farms and very human-centric city.
Yeah, you get it all to yourself. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Oh, and then you mentioned it's protected by UNESCO.
The capital, yes, it's
Capital.
a UNESCO World Heritage because it used to be a huge fort. And so all the fortifications and the towers and the bridges, everything is protected by UNESCO.
Oh wow. Wow. Well, similar to kind of talking about architecture, let's talk a little bit about cuisine. What would you say is your favorite dish from Luxembourg?
From Luxembourg, it's kind of an interesting cuisine because it's like a little country squeezed between Belgium, France, and Germany. So there is a bit of influence from every
Yeah.
side. And I think I really like bouchée à la reine. So it's like a little pastry filled with some mushroom and chicken with a like kind of like a creamy sauce.
Oh,
So it's really good. And
oh,
it takes a bit of everything because you have like the wild mushroom from Germany and the pastry from France. And yeah, it's like really good combination.
yeah. Is it like a sweet type of bread, kind of like a croissant type of bread? Like,
It's similar. It's like pâte brisée, so it's similar to a croissant, but it's not sweet.
oh, okay. Wow, that sounds really good. Sounds like a good lunch.
Yeah, it's nice. And
So,
it's less heavy than it looks, so it's also nice. Like it looks like it's a lot, but after eating it, you're not stuffed.
oh, that's good. Yeah, because sometimes you never know. So it's good to like have
Exactly.
a lighter. Awesome. So could you share a little bit about your story about how you got involved into programming and how that led to where you are today?
Well, I've started writing code, I think I was like 6 or 7. So it kind of like been my entire life. I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I went through all my scholarship, just focusing on science. Then I did Master of Engineering. And then I got an opportunity. I did all of that in France. And then I got an opportunity to go to San Francisco. And so that's where I spent 10 years of my career over there. And that's also where I met John, and uh, and then I went back to Europe, specifically in Luxembourg, where I created a few companies. And through all being an independent now, I recontacted with John, and that's how I ended up working with Ziverge now.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned you've always known you wanted to do programming or at least in that industry. Can you pinpoint a moment in your, I guess, childhood or adolescence that you were like, this is what I want to do?
I feel like I've always been focusing on like, I don't know, for me, solving problems, having something that doesn't work and then make it work for me was like magic. But I'm not super handy, so I tried with like doing electronics, but then you always like solder the wrong things, and there is no control Z, right? You can't undo. Then I
Yeah.
like biology, but there is way too much nomenclatures and words to remember. And then for me, computer science was kind of like the way of touching every science because now everybody needs computer. If you can write, I don't know, physics simulations down to processing data to making video games to you can create everything. It's pretty like for me like an artistic outlet. Both of my parents are artists themselves, but I
Mm.
was not good at the traditional art. But making code for me is like my art.
Yeah, it's a form of art for sure. What would you say in that journey as to where you are now, have been some like challenges, either social or technical, that you've faced?
I think it's more kind of like a realization at some point where as an engineer, you're happy behind the computers and you're like, the world can disappear and I'm happy just solving my little problem. But then you kind of realize that the world is a bit bigger and there's people involved, and not everything is as quote unquote easy as writing code. There's all the thing around writing the code. And for me, when I realized this is when I started, going out to networking events, starting to build a network, starting to build a personal brand, writing blog articles, creating things back to the community, and being like outside of the computer a bit more. I was one of those engineers that go and eat with the sales team because I wanted to know how the business works instead of, having a sandwich behind my laptop. So for me,
Yeah.
it was really this like break where like, okay, I'm introvert, okay, I'm happy in my comfort zone, but there's a lot more outside. And I think that had a big positive impact on my career.
Yeah. What would you say is a piece of advice for someone that is a little more introverted and wants to step in that direction, but maybe they're not like that confident yet to go like eat with a sales team, for example?
Well, I'm not confident. It's just, you have to do it. So you
You have
just
to do
like
it.
put yourself there, then when you're there, you don't have the choice. Same when I went to the US, I was barely speaking English. But when you're there, there is no option but to speak. And then it happens. And same thing, when you go eat with the sales team, everybody's gonna ask you questions. And you at some point you're there now and you jump in the bath, it doesn't matter if the water is cold.
Yeah, you have to throw yourself in the water. That's right.
Exactly. You have to
Um,
like trap yourself. It's like you take a meeting ahead of time and then you can't cancel it and now it's there. So you have to go.
yeah,
My reactions to doing like public speaking have always been like yes. And then when it's the time to go, I'm like, oh, why did I say yes? I don't want to do it, but I can't cancel now. So, then you're on stage and you have to do it.
yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like specifically for public speaking, like anxiety shows up in like different ways. Like sometimes it's when you're planning it, sometimes it's when
Yeah,
you're right about to go, sometimes it's when you're actually doing it.
exactly.
But it's good to like throw yourself in the water to see, like know how to handle those things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so back to kind of like the world of programming with your journey and where you are now, what have you seen as kind of like trendy in the world of programming that you're aware of?
I think right now it's on everybody's lips. It's the generative AI that's life changing. Like my productivity have went through the roof. Now when I have this new framework, new library, I've never heard of it before. Just go ask ChatGPT, what is this? How do I start? How do I set up the boilerplates? Like it's so much easier. It's kind of like you have a code pairing partner 24/7. It's like, how do I do this? Oh, thanks. How do I do that? Oh, thanks. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not always right. So you have to be like, well, I don't think that's right. I think this is a better solution. It's like, oh, you sure? Blah, blah. And then you go back and forth and you can brainstorm. I remember back at school, many years ago, they were like the duck. So it's like you have a little plastic duck on your desk and you explain the problem to it. And just the fact that you explain the problem, you basically solve it. So here it's kind of the same thing, except the duck respond to you. It's amazing.
That's awesome. It reminds me a little bit of like Clippy. Do you remember Clippy from
Yeah, yeah.
Word? Well, you didn't
It's a
talk
bit
to it.
less.
It kind of talked to you, but
Yeah,
um,
it's a bit less annoying than
a
Clippy
little
nowadays.
less
Like it
annoying.
went a long way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that transitions nicely to an important topic, which is AI. So,
Mhm.
what would you say is how you can leverage AI besides what you just mentioned in your day to day?
But depending on the regulations of your company, if you can, I would highly recommend to use GitHub Copilot because it's really like next level. You have basically you can write the name of the function and the function is written for you. Like it's mind blowing, and it's getting better by the month. Like every time there's an update, it's like, well, you couldn't do that before. Now you can. It's crazy. And also, when you started a new project, it can analyze the structure of the code and tell you where to start, what this function is about, what this module is for. So for onboarding, it's also really good because you can be like, okay, here's this new project. I don't know where to start, but I have this thing I need to do, and it will analyze the file structure to tell you, well, this file is probably where you should start looking, and maybe this one, and then you go and it's really good. And you can write tests, you can write comments. It's amazing. And then if you can't do that because you're not allowed to with the conditions of your employment, you can use ChatGPT on the side just to ask like, how do I do this or that, or like that. It doesn't send your own code there, but then you can have really well instruction. Or sometimes there's like an issue in this loop and you don't really know how to do it, you can just copy paste a snippet and be like, can you fix it?
Well,
It's really good.
that's
No,
good to
it's
know.
really mind blowing, and especially like it's also really good when you start a new project. It can write all the boilerplate for you. It's like I want to build a website that does this and that, and like boom, and then you can just modify it. It's a lot easier than having to just do all the bits the start from scratch.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely more like high level when it comes to like code and things like that, but GPT is a huge, huge tool. Um, so kind of asking you your preferences, what would you say is your favorite programming language?
I think it evolved, but for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years, it's been Scala and recently Rust. For me, it's my comfort zone. Like when I want to, like even with all the other missions I have on the side, I'm always happy to go back to Scala. It's like my happy time.
Yeah. And how would you leverage something like Zio for someone that doesn't know or has never used Zio before to start using Scala?
um, as I mean, to be fair, I think it would be better to first know Scala and the limitation, and then you understand what Zio can unlock from this, because you'll feel the frustrations when you use bare bones Scala, because it's kind of like you can do everything with it, but it's almost frustrating that you can't do everything because then there is no uh, like ways to do things the most efficiently or the more readable. And then when you go into a source code of a company that has been using pure Scala with no other framework, you from one file to another is different style. Some people do one thing one way, and in another function is different. It's really madness. But if you use like a strong foundation like ZI, and you have like all the structures is done for you, so you are forced to do it the right way, which is amazing. And then it unlock your mind to think about the higher issues, right? You're solving business problem and you're not solving
Mhm.
like small insignificant things anymore. You just you it's like this big jump in abstraction level.
Yeah. And would you say Scala is a really good language for someone that's just starting out in the world of programming, or is there another language that you recommend?
It's hard to recommend a language specifically. I think if you know nothing, if you start from zero, it will be best to first know what you want to build, because then finding a language that allow you to build what you want to build will ignite like will reinforce this passion, right? And learning something with passion is a lot more efficient than learning something because you have to learn it, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
sure we all went through this when you at school. If it's a topic you like, you are a lot more passionate about learning and reading and expanding beyond even just the class. And so if you choose a language because someone told you to choose it, it's not fun anymore. So I think it's better to be like, what do you want to do? And then start building this thing as a way to learn. And that will just, you will do it because you love it, not because you have to learn it. And so I think that's the best way to choose a language, to choose a project first.
Yeah. How would you know what language is best to solve a certain problem?
Ask ChatGPT.
Just bringing it full circle to ChatGPT. That's it. That's a great suggestion. I guess in that same realm of like someone that's just starting out in programming, what is a general piece of advice that you would give them?
I think it's getting involved with communities as early as possible. So, for instance, you could go to the Ziverge event to place some advertisement here. But to be fair, having a community surrounding you that can give you tips and advice and how to progress, it's really a good thing to have, because it will give you accountability as well. Because if you tell people, yeah, I'm learning this and that, and then 2 months later you see them again, they're like, so how did it go? And you're like, oh, I didn't do it. Then it creates a situation where it's like you want to show that you've done it. And then the next step is to get involved with open source projects. So every open source project on GitHub pretty much have like good for beginners. And so then you can go do those, and it not only create a learning opportunity because people are gonna tell you you did that wrong, you did that good, but also it add to your portfolio. When you look at your GitHub, there will be tons of participation in open source project. And then when you look for a job, employers will be like, okay, you're already working in the world. Like you're not just doing class homework exercise. You're also doing real life work. And in online, there's tons of communities on Discord and Reddit and this type of thing. So yeah, there's and building a project slowly, it will confront you to issues that then you will find a solution to, and you will remember the solution a lot more than if you learn the solution without knowing what problem it solves.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned like accountability and how Zyverge like helps you kind of stay on track with your projects. What would you say if you can choose a number one reason for someone to join Zyverge? What would you say that is?
I think it's a very good place to work because it's surrounding by experts. Like everybody is brilliant here, and but also everybody is also very easygoing, right? If you need the time off to do something else, there is never like, oh no 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 no. It's like, okay, everybody has their own life. Everybody's is scattered around the planet. Everybody is remote, so it's very like super flexible, super trustworthy. We trust everyone. You know, we're not like counting how many minutes you worked on anything. It's like, here you did your job, and that's good. You know, that's all we ask, and that's really good. It might be a bit hard as a junior because you know you might want more structure, but for people with a lot of experience at senior, it's amazing place to be.
Yeah. Honestly, you've given so many pieces of advice that I don't know if I can even ask you like for a last one, but I guess overall, in general, is there one last piece of advice that you would share?
I mean, depend on who is it for, right? Like, if you're a senior engineer, come knock at Zyverge. We might have good opportunity. If it's for a junior person, join the Zyverge event to learn more. And if it's for someone that's wondering if they should start writing code or not, the answer is always yes, because it's a tool you can use in every jobs, even if you're, I don't know, an accountant and you need to write Excel functions that will make your life a lot more productive, right? So. And nowadays, there's all the tools, even more than before. They already had communities online and open source communities, but now even if you're super shy, you just want to learn by yourself, there is AI tools that can teach you step by step what to learn. So there is no excuse anymore.
Yeah, no excuse. You have a lot of tools and a lot of great places like Zyverge to start.
And if you ever have questions, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've been mentoring engineers for pretty much all my career.
That's awesome. That's great that you do that. I think that's awesome. But yeah, thank you so much, Leo, for your time today. I really appreciate you
Yeah, with pleasure.
sharing your story and sharing your advice. I think it's going to be helpful for someone that's just starting out or they're already at the senior level and they want to keep growing. So I appreciate
Yeah.
your time very much.
Likewise, thanks for having me.